Check, check, check. Please don't fall. Please don't fall. I just don't need that shit right there. Give me some air. Yes, okay. Go. All right, check. Check. Check, check, check. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. I am CallMeNakomi, and this is CallMeNakomi World. Give it up, give it up. I thank you so much for coming in, guys. Your one-stop shop for entertainment and sports, people. CallMeNakomi World. As always, I appreciate you for coming out on YouTube. But please don't forget that I have an audio version of this YouTube channel on podcast. So go out and check me out at CallMeNakomi World on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, guys. You can find me everywhere. I'm everywhere. You ain't never there, baby. I'm telling you right now. So, as always, please also remember to like, comment, subscribe, share me with your friends, and also rate me wherever you want to see more CallMeNakomi World. You know, I'm out here trying to share the good news and spread the good news with everybody out there. There's some good entertainment out there, some good sports going on, and I'm here to talk about it with you all. But now let's get to our episode topic, okay? Our episode topic today is the season 1, episode 2 of the 3-Body Problem on Netflix, guys. I've been enjoying it. I enjoyed it when I watched it through, and I was just like, you know what? I'm going to watch it through another time anyway. So I'm like, yo, let me go ahead and just do this review and reaction videos for y'all, because I really enjoyed it, and I hope that you did too. Or if you're enjoying it and watching it with me, go ahead and do that, and we'll talk about it. Please just hit me up, and we could definitely holler at it. I'm about to come up with at the end. I'm gonna read you some comments that a viewer shared with me on the last episode, and hopefully you guys will do the same again with this episode. But here we go. Of course. The episode begins present day with the news coverage of the blinking sky. You know, it's coming in from all over the globe. Everybody saw it. So it wasn't just Augie and Saul who saw it. Everybody saw it. And right now we're actually in EA's, the older EA's home, and she's watching the footage on TV. You know what I mean? You know, they're watching the footage from around the globe and just looking at how the sky does pretty much betrayed its faithfulness, you know? So a couple minutes later, Saul drops by with some groceries, and he sits down with her and starts talking. And when she asks him, what does he think about the sky? He says, it's a deep fake. Can't explain it with science. And, you know, plain and simple, because none of the satellites saw it. Hubble, Webb, they're all out there, and none of them saw the skies, the stars start to blink in and out. So trying to figure out what happened, he can't explain it. So he's just like, it's a fake, plain and simple. But, you know, he figures, you know, they don't know who's behind it, though. That's basically what the question is. If it's a deep fake, then who did it? Nobody knows. Over in Augie's lab, the sky is the topic of the conversation again, of course, as it would be in our real lives. Everybody would be sitting around the cooler talking about it, and it's the cooler topic today. And when they ask her about it, she offers no theories, for or against. Either way, she doesn't have any type of opinion on it, and goes to greet the project's benefactor, her project's benefactor. Her countdown appears on the screen, and it shows 9 minutes, 23 seconds, 21, 22, 21. You know, so it's going down. It's getting close. It's getting real close, you know. And today is her big test of her new nanofiber technology, you know. So they sit down, they start the project, and they're attempting to cut a synthetic diamond cube in 8 minutes and 44 seconds is showing on her countdown. So it's she's getting real close. And remember, the lady on the at the steps on Vera's funeral night told her that to stop the countdown, you just stop your work. But she's basically going through with it. She wants to make sure, you know, she wants to do, that's what we all do. We work so hard to get to where we are, and we want to press the button. plain and simple, you know. But there's a lot more at stake, and she doesn't know exactly what it is at stake, but she's afraid. So it is what it is, but she's going to go through with it. And they raise the diamond into the lattice of fibers, and they end up cutting the cube into smaller rectangles just by sliding the synthetic diamond cube against the fibers. And so the project and the test is a success. They're all congratulating themselves and patting themselves on the back, you know what I mean? But her countdown is still going. So she announces that to everyone that she is shutting down the project, and then she just walks out. You know, and her countdown, as soon as she gets outside, her countdown stops and goes away. Just like that. So she's relieved. But Detective She, and sorry, not Detective Da, is Detective She. My bad. They basically, you know, the way that they put names or the way they pronounce names, Detective She is the way you would refer to Dashi. Detective She. So he's waiting outside for her, and he tells her to keep moving because they'll be down real soon, because I'm sure that you know they're all gonna be like, well, you doing what? So he tells her, let's keep moving, and joins her as they walk away. He gives her his card and offers to help. She tells him he can't help her. You know, but he asks her, but don't you want to know why the stars flickered at you? That's definitely a big question to have answered. You know, in 1968, Mongolia, China, they're playing the recording that's going out in their broadcast. It extends their best wishes and hopes to make contact. EA finds out from one of the officers that they have been transmitting the message for a few years now, and Russia and Americans have been doing it even longer. She explains to him the Fermi paradox. 100 billion stars, you know, how many of them have habitable planets, and which ones have intelligent life? You know, you would assume that there's a lot of them out there, but why haven't any of them joined the chat? That's pretty much the question. You know, she assumes that their signal is too weak, and that's why they're not getting the message, and wants him to contact the scientist who wrote an article about the first transmission. So, you know, he looks skeptical, but what I assume is to be much later. She's working in her lab when he brings back the reply that the scientist sent to her. She deduced that to boost the signal, they need to bounce it off of the sun. That pretty much amplifies it, you know, but they have to run that idea by the commanding officer first. You can't just go ahead and do something like that. In true self-serving fashion, though, the young officer, he decides to take the idea to the commanding officer by himself, of course, claiming credit for himself. The commanding officer calls it a radical idea and calls EA in to check his work. Of course, because, you know, that's basically what happens. You know, she comes in and she feels betrayed. But that's just the 60s for you. That's, you know, men are basically going to take the credit and women pretty much have to take the back seat. You know, it is what it is. Ignore the female computers until you need to check your work, as usual. Check out, you know, gosh, I can't remember the movie. Hidden Figures. Check out Hidden Figures, guys. We smart. Plain and simple. We smart. But the commanding officer thinks it's too much of a political statement to aim the dish at the sun with and transmit towards the sun. When Mao Zedong, which is the leader of the People's Republic of China, I think that might be what they were calling China at that time. I'm sorry, I don't completely know at the time, but they thought it would be a radical thing to you know, aim it at Mao Zedong, which they consider the red sun, which is pretty much the guiding light of the Chinese people. So he forbids it. And EA is disappointed, you know, with his ideological decision, just basically that kind of thinking that just you know, handicaps so many ideas and thoughts, is pretty much the main issue that's going on right now. And so she decides to take matters into her own hands. And at the last minute, before a transmission that there was scheduled to be sent out, she changes the target to the sun. Back at the Black Palace, in present day, of course. Detective She shows Augie pictures of Mike Evans. He's just, trying to catch her up, see what she knows. And she doesn't know who the hell that is. So he moves on. Then he shows her a footage of the night when it was Vera's funeral. And she was out on the steps and the woman is not there in the video. But Augie's cigarette gets lit. They are trying to figure out how the woman got scrubbed from the image. But he asks why they'd want to shut down her lab. Who knows who they is at this point? No one knows who they is. Her work is obviously dangerous to someone. And he tells her have been several other scientists who have experienced countdowns from different fields all over, just basically a lot, just astrophysicists, cybernetics, AI, just all different types of fields. And they all quit their jobs in either one way or another. Either they quit or they quit. Yeah. So, over with Jin, she's worried about Augie and gives her a call, but then gets her voicemail. I guess she's still over talking with Detective She. So she decides to take another trip with the shiny headset. She is back in the simulation on level 1, and 2 AI NPCs, which is non-player characters, that look very realistic, approach her. The Count and a little girl that they call Follower. Jin introduces herself, and the man tells her that she needs to pick a hero's name. His mission is to solve the riddle of his world, world number 137. She chooses the name Copernicus, and they start to head towards the pyramid to meet the emperor during a chaotic era. In this world, they have a chaotic era, and they have chaotic eras, and they have stable eras, but mostly chaotic. And during chaotic eras, the emperor consults great minds about the movement of the sun. Sorry, guys, I'm going to get a little thick into what's going on, just basically to lay down a foundation of what is going on here in this game. Her goal is to decide if the era is chaotic or stable. If they are wrong, it means the destruction of their civilization. Jin asks how, and at that moment, a large sun rises over the mountains. The extreme heat forces them to hide behind a rock, but all of 3 of them can't fit back there. So the Count pushes the little girl out into the sunlight. It's and out of the rock's shade. She asks for them to not abandon her. As Jin is trying to pull her back. He says that one of them have to survive. So the little girl says, "Do not abandon her," and lays down on the ground, and her body dehydrates to just skin. When the sun sets, the Count gets up and rolls the little girl's body up and gives it to Jin, saying she is not dead but preserved, and they can rehydrate her when a stable era arrives. He says, if one of us survive, we all survive. That is a major line in this show. That's all I gotta say. If one of us survives, we all survive. And he leaves her to continue towards the pyramid. See, everybody is handling, their grief in different ways, Augie is chain smoking like she got caught with a kilo in the back of her trunk. Jen is basically, getting too much screen time like a 10-year-old with a tablet and an iPhone. And Saul, wants to drop acid on the marches. That's basically Saul, And at the present, Saul is sharing a couple of drinks at the bar with a couple of ladies. He's telling them that the flickering stars was not God, while ignoring calls from Augie. She's calling, and he's just ignoring it and hang with the ladies. Jin needs to share what's going on with her, with someone else who's like-minded, a like-minded individual, and takes the shiny headset to Jack. He marvels as he looks at it. He marvels at the technology and how advanced it is. Jin agrees and says it's indistinct that the virtual reality is indistinguishable from reality. That's basically what that's how she describes it. He goes ahead and puts the shiny headset on, and is amazed by what he sees. Very, very realistic. He is completely immersed, but he's immediately greeted by an adult female NPC that says he is not invited and slashes him with her sword. In fear, he takes off the headset. He is freaked out by how far beyond the capabilities it is, like 150 years beyond our capabilities. She tells him that this is what Vera was playing before she killed herself, and wondering if the game had anything to do with it. Putting the headset on again with the same result, Jack can taste blood this time. He presumes that there has to be a greater mission for someone to come up with such an elaborate and advanced piece of technology. Very, very true. I mean, that ain't no Mark Zuckerberg quest. Trust and believe. Complete tracking, body tracking, and everything like that. I mean, they're not even needing to move. He just basically moves in his head. Great stuff. Anyway, but of course, all the while, Detective She is listening through all the conversations through their phones. The man's on his job. That's all I gotta say. The man's on his job. Detective She. Whether they like it or not, he's on the case. The next morning, Augie exits her home to find Saul asleep at her doorstep. And she is obviously none too pleased. He asks about her countdown, and she tells him it's gone. She shut down the project, like the woman said, and it worked. Then, obviously upset that he didn't call back when she needed him, tells him that he needs to grow up before walking away. Detective She visits his wife's grave site. It's her birthday. So he goes there and he's talking to her when he is visited by the woman who was missing from the TV footage. She says she's visiting her father. And they share how each of their loved ones died. He says his wife died of breast cancer, and her father died from a gunshot wound to the head. Crazy. That raises an eyebrow for Detective She, and he decides to leave there. Maybe a good idea, son. Jack later arrives home to a very nice contemporary flat. It looks very fly. Very nice bachelor pad, sir. To find a box with his name on it. Very nice box. I don't even know exactly how to describe what the shape of that box, but it was a very cool box. And he opens it to find his very own shiny headset with an invitation to play. He immediately jumps in. Absolutely. Absolutely raw. Just sits down, jumps in. And it takes him to level 1 in merry old England this time. So he's English, so he gets taken to merry old England. But Jin is of Asian descent, so she is taken to China. Interesting. It's intuitive. Interesting stuff. He is dressed like Henry VIII in a desolate land. There's no growing trees, no foliage like that. Just basically a castle ahead. And 2 NPCs approach, a man and a little girl. The man begins to introduce himself as Sir Thomas, and Jack decides to punch him directly in the face. He doesn't even think about it. He just goes ahead and just punches in the face and starts hitting on him. And the guy's like, "What is your problem, son?" And they decide to stop, and he gathers himself. And Jack decides to actually introduce himself properly and gives him his name. Sir Thomas tells him he needs to pick a better name, and Jack decides to punch him again. It just is what it is. He's here for the Fortnite. He's here for the regular video game experience, but it's something else afoot here. There's something else afoot. Will Downing, their other friend, that's a teacher, he is in class at the moment and ignoring several calls from a person named Dr. Bishop. Now, later that day, I guess, or maybe before, and he's trying to not think about it, later in the doctor's office, it appears that Will gets some bad news. He seems in a daze for the rest of the day, and then meets Jack in the park for a little bit of, just to hang out or whatever. And he tells him, and Jack is there telling him about the world in the shiny headset. He's just so excited about it and telling him his experience in there. And Will asks him to shut up for a second. And he tells him that he has pancreatic cancer, stage 4, and it's spread everywhere already. He has 2 to 6 months to live. Jack is distraught. He's just beside himself. And he tells him to fight. Even though it's only 2 to 6 months, he needs to fight. He shouldn't give up like he's given up on so many other things, like physics and like Jen. But he needs to fight. And even though he feels like it's a lost cause, he needs to fight. Even if it's just through the sandwich, Jen is still plugged in like a tick. He's plugged in like a tween playing Fortnite. She's plugged in just hard. She's laying down on her bed and just focused. So she's made it to the pyramid this time to meet with the emperor. And the count from before is already there. He says he has created a code that will predict the environment, that will predict the movement of the sun, and using reeds of bamboo laid out on the floor. But the emperor is skeptical. Jin calls it prophecy, not prediction. So the emperor calls her to step forward and speak. She calls what the count is doing the I Ching and says that it's divination, not following the physical laws of the world. The emperor asks, which world? That's a good question. I mean, there's obviously others. This is 137. When the count has his code completed on the floor, the emperor asks, when can the population be rehydrated? The count sits and the reeds start to glow. He predicts the chaotic era will end in 8 days, and there will be 67 years of stability. They open the skylight above and ask Jin to put her hand on the ground to move the time forward. That's how they do it there. She does, and time lapses forward 8 days. So the emperor orders the population rehydrated. Hundreds of men from around the palace come out and pass thousands of rolled up citizens forward to be thrown into the sea. As they do, the bodies reanimate and emerge from the sea joyfully. Jin brings the young girl follower to the waters and tosses her in too. She emerges and embraces Jin in a hug. As the girl runs off, Jin watches in horror as the sun begins to recede into the distance. A strong winter storm rushes in towards the pyramid, and the people start rushing towards the pyramid for protection too. As Jin tries to get to follower through the chaos, she reaches just in time to see follower's body freeze and shatter. Later, as Jin weeps among the bodies, the female NPC with the sword, sheathed this time, thank goodness, tells her civilization 137 was obliterated by the extreme cold. But she established that she established the superiority of science over mysticism. In the next level, Jin must use science to save the next civilization. Then she looks up and sees 3 bright objects dancing around one another until they line up one over the other. It's basically just like stars. It's obviously a sun is a star, and 3 stars just dance and come and line up over each other above. And then we zoom out into the sky to see a man watching the whole scene on a computer screen, among other things that he's watching on screens. Back at the Black Palace, Detective Shi goes to see his boss, Thomas White, the Onion Knight. He wants to report on Mike Evans. Detective Shi informs him that he's been spending his money on anti-vax and anti-5G conspiracies, including supporting anti-science politicians around the world. What is he up to? I wonder. He also found a report from 1977 where a radio telescope from Ohio State University detected a 72-second sequence that they called a wow signal, and that it seemed like an attempt at communication. They were unable to decode it and say only Ohio State only Ohio State received it, but it was also received by one observatory in northwest China. And guess where Mike Evans is at that time, in 1977? EA, back in 1977, is walking through the remains of the large Great Forest. As a man leads her and the Red Coast officer through pine saplings that have come up and grown next to the cabin, a young disheveled Mike Evans meets them at the door. Inside, Ye notices a copy of Silent Spring, so they have that in common. He asks they ask why he is there, and he says it's to save lives. He means the species of bird that is in danger of becoming extinct from all the deforestation. He's willing to spend his entire life in China if he must, to save one species from a greedy from the greed of another. Evans asks them to leave, and EA promises to try and stop them. Back at the dish, EA and the officer discuss sites for the new radio lab. They disagree on where it should go. EA wants it to be somewhere a little bit more secluded. He asks if it's because she's trying to help the American, and for her not to throw 8 years of her good work down the drain. In exchange, he offers for her to see the woman that took part in her father's death. EA agrees. I'm sure she got words. And the woman is one of hundreds at a work camp, breaking big rocks into smaller rocks. It's like a gulag. It's like a Martian gulag. The woman tells her the past is behind them, but EA disagrees. The woman has lost more than just her status. She lost her arm to gangrene and says that they have all lost. She says EA's mind is what saved her. Later, EA is reflecting on all of this in her lab. While she listens to the radio waves, all of a sudden she receives a signal. The radio waves begin to spike all over the place, and the computer translates it to say this: "Do not answer. Do not answer. Do not answer. I am a pacifist in this world. You are lucky that I am the first to receive your message. I am warning you, do not answer. If you respond, we will come. Your world will be conquered. Do not answer." EA contemplates this for a while, then types a message to transmit back towards the sun. "Come, we cannot save ourselves. I will help you conquer this world." Committing to her decision, she presses send. Smash to black. That was the end of this episode. So, I thought it was an interesting episode, post phenomenon in the sky. Everybody was dealing with the issue themselves in their own way. Like Saul, many scientists are discounting it as a hoax or ignoring it, and others are wrapped up in their own issues, like countdowns and threats to their work. I also found it interesting the wide variety of scientists that are in scientific studies that are being affected. From physics. Hadron colliders and, doctors and applied physics and, just different types of science are basically being impacted in one way or another by whatever is going on. Physicists, robotics, artificial intelligence, medical applications, so many different so many different scientists are being affected by it. And it feels like someone is trying to affect or stop our scientific progression, because it's not, contacting some doctor from the middle of nowhere. Shout out to Game of Thrones, D&E, y'all doing a good job. It's not hitting up some veterinarian out in Oklahoma. Is basically hitting the top scientists in the entire world. They're just basically either killing themselves or deciding to stop their work altogether. Or whatever it is, it's just going insane by all the pressure. And Evans is putting, and it feels like someone is wanting to, to do this purposefully. And Evans obviously seems like he's connected to it, because he's putting tons of money into hoaxes, which is basically making people question science, and also putting money into the anti-science lobby, so, they're being strategic about what they're doing, whoever is doing this. And the virtual reality game, I'm not sure if it's just a distraction, or if there's a larger meaning to the exercise. But I believe that there is a larger meaning, because it's one thing to make a video game for scientists, but that ain't no Oculus. That took years of design and money, and honestly, obviously something that's beyond our ability. So someone's helping whoever did this. It seems like some high level Zelda shit to me too. The exercise or the games and levels that they're going through, they basically have to seek something, and it's just higher level. And Detective She obviously has all of them under surveillance. Very smart man. He singled out the Oxford Five and realized that somehow they're important, maybe because they're connected to Vera, and they also have so much ability amongst them them in these, and they also have targeted possibly Vera, and also have targeted Augie. So he's just waiting for the next shoe to drop, and knows that Jin is also now plugged in and watching or playing this game, and now Jack does. So obviously this whole entire group is connected in some way, or they have drawn the attention of whoever is doing this to the world. But whatever it is, I hope to find out why they are so important. And that's a question that I'm still trying to figure out. But we don't know yet, And what's up with the creepy chick in the cemetery? You know what I'm saying? Obviously the Watcher is watching the Watchers. The Watcher is watching the Watchers. So somehow she knows who he is and is following him and following him all the way out there, and just gave him some kind of crazy, message, or not message, but this kind of crazy explanation of why she was there. But at the same time, she had no real message for him. She was just there and said hi, pretty much. Watch out for the crazy ones. That's all I gotta say. The thing that bugs me the most, though, is Dr. Yi. I honestly don't ever realize or remember whether or not she was actually a doctor, but for some reason I'm just calling her Dr. Yi, something to kind of set her aside from her younger self, maybe a little bit. And also from, her daughter was obviously probably a doctor too, Dr. Vera Yi. Dr. Vera EA. But, EA. Wenji EA. Dude, what are you doing? How do you just take it upon yourself to play fast and loose with humanity? You know what I'm saying? The person thing, whatever it is on the other end of that line, literally implied that they are they are one of few pacifists in their world, and you was lucky that you got them. Which means come in peace is not in their lexicon. You know what I'm saying? That's not what they do. They're about that business. You know what I mean? And but in her own grief, she leads her. She lets her own grief lead her to knowingly sell the whole entire planet out, expecting that, we can't save ourselves, so y'all must be better. And even though he warns you, you still send the message. You know what I'm saying? I mean, talk about cut off your face despite your nose. You know what I mean? Cut off your nose despite your face. Hurt people, but come on now. There's no excuses. No excuses for that one. You know what I'm saying? And we have the poster child for that right there. Hurt people, but come on. You can't just basically sell the whole people out. But anyway, lastly, before we get out of here, I want to highlight a viewer who sent a comment on my last episode. I really appreciate you, Shelly6524. Really appreciate you for that, girl. Or guy, they, you, I appreciate you. You know what I mean? I really appreciate all the comments I get. And I wanted to highlight that one. I liked it, but I wanted to highlight it on the video. So Shelly, this is for you. Some of the things she mentioned was, being sus about Raj. I am sus about Raj too. I don't exactly know. At this point in the show, I'm not going to say too much. He just appeared and went to the bar with them. So, don't know much about him yet, but yeah, I can see that, I can understand the hesitation and trust him. He feels very single-minded and driven. He's basically, a serviceman. So he's dedicated to the armed forces, but not wanting to give anything away. I will cover more about him in later episodes. Also, Shelley mentioned that she loved the way that they adapted the virtual reality game from the books. I've just actually started to read the books. So I thought the scenes were amazing, absolutely. And, I'm really looking forward to seeing where they take it from there. Especially after I've seen the last episode of the season, but I'm really, really looking forward to seeing where they take it from there. And I can imagine also, I'm waiting to see how they do it in the books. I'm looking forward to getting to that point. She mentioned too, the countdown that was different in the books, from the show. And looking forward to hearing that. I kind of think of it as, adapting books. It's a hard thing to do. It's not easy. Another book that I have reviewed, and also, the show that I have reviewed, The Wheel of Time, they had to deal with that. And it's many things that are a little bit kind of blurry in the books as far as, what they could possibly do, and, whether I like or dislike the things that they tried to adapt that are major things in the show. Some things I like, some things I don't. And just basically sometimes you just got to take it with a grain of sand and just figure that that's the best that they could do, because these are writers, and with words you can express and paint a amazing picture. But hey, look how long it took for them to even try to make Lord of the Rings. It takes a long time to kind of get that kind of technology, but maybe it's just more so a mental a block as far as the creativity. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. So I'm glad you like the way that they're doing the countdown and the virtual reality scenes. And lastly, she wants to know how the F did the aliens make the sky blink? I can't tell. I can't say right now because I saw that at the end of the episode. So, I mean, the end of the series. So all I can say right now is WAFO, which comes from the Wheel of Time community, which means, well, watch and find out. It used to be RAFO, which is read and find out. But now that these shows are being brought to the screen, it is WAFO, watch and find out. But it's very interesting, takes a complete sharp left. It makes you be like, okay, well, this is 0 Dark 30. It's go time right now. So I can't wait to cover that with you guys also. Later on in my reviews. She wants to hear more about my theories and of what's happening and what's going on, or what's going to happen. And I'm not wanting to spoil much of anything for the viewers. I've been curious I've been curious with what I can say. But I will say this. I've been cautious with what I could say, but I will say this. EA and Mike Evans are obviously colluding to bring about whatever ye promised the aliens. For a lack of better terms, they're seeing the man that was watching. Oh, sorry. For a lack of a better term, and seeing the man that was watching the Oxford Five and the others on the screens. They either want to distract the scientists or deceive the scientists. Maybe they're faking those results that they've been showing around the whole entire world. That's the only reason how you could get such a wide range of basically just everybody just getting really bad results on their on their tests. So they're deceiving people also, besides just forcing them or tricking them into stopping their work. Making them think that they're in danger of their work, or their work can to slow. Basically, it's all to slow humanity up. That's what I feel like it is. Obviously, now that we know that EA is communicating with a planet that is probably coming to conquer, and she has promised that she will help them. So to help them conquer this planet, she needs to slow their technological abilities. And it makes me think, what else has she put the kibosh on, or have they affected or influenced to stop us from being able to be better since the 70s? Clean energy, technology, lobby to have politicians stand in the way of progress. I mean, it could be far reaching since 1977. I mean, hell, that was before I was born. That's more than 44 years. That's a lot of time. So they just basically want to slow up humanity in one way or another. That's just what their plan is. And for what reason would be to target our scientists? That's, for what other reason? Exactly. All that. And honestly, my other thing is, I'm sick of them judging Saul. I'll say that. I'm sick of them judging Saul and his drug use. He doesn't seem like some, drugged up, coked up guy who's just laying on the floor, just wasting his life away. He's actually working. He's working, and he's a brilliant scientist that people believe in, and people are still actually calling and reaching out to him. So he's obviously not passed out in some alley somewhere. You know what I mean? All he's doing, it just seems like he's just a troubled intellectual who is just self-medicating, and that's nothing wrong with that. I mean, as long as he's not, in some addiction situation. I think that he's fine. And in spite of all of it, he hasn't lost a step. So lay off a man Saul. That's all I got to say. But thank you guys. That's it for me. I'm CallMeNakomi, and thank you so much for coming by the CallMeNakomi world for my review and reaction to season 1, episode 2 of Netflix's 3 Body Problem. Make sure you come back for episode 3. I'll be having that coming soon. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share wherever you want to see more CallMeNakomi world. Follow me at CallMeNakomi on Instagram and CallMeNakomi with the number 1 on X, and write me if you want at CallMeNakomi at gmail.com. Please remember, you could find me on YouTube and also listen to CallMeNakomi World via podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I will definitely be dropping it there like I did the last one. And until next time, guys, take care of one another, stay active and healthy. And in the words of Jean-Luc Picard, may the stars always be in your favor. Peace.